closing line value is one subtraction. A bettor takes the bills at +3, the number closes at +1, and that bettor finished 2 points better than the market. Averaged across every bet placed, that difference is the whole measure. It's worth keeping. The standard argument for it doesn't hold up though, and the arithmetic usually bolted onto it is wrong in a direction that turns a marginal position into a claimed edge. The version in circulation gets 55% out of a number that produces 52.5. Next, what the measure counts. For spreads, it's counted in points, and for money lines in implied probability instead. Here's what it doesn't count. Whether the bet won. A wager can beat the close by 2 points and lose by 10, and both facts sit there together without contradiction. That gap between the measurement and the result is why most people stop tracking it around week 3. Next, what the closing number is. Almost every explanation describes the close as the market's best estimate of true probability, arrived at by informed money and sophisticated models pushing the price toward truth. The economist Stephen Levitt tested that account for the Economic Journal in 2004. His figures don't support it. Levitt worked from 2 sets of data. One is roughly 20,000 wagers placed by 285 bettors in a handicapping contest across the 2001 season. The other reaches back a great deal further, to game outcomes against the spread across the 21 seasons he dates 1980 to 2001. That second set is where the figure everybody quotes actually sits. Across 4,793 games, favorites covered 48.2% of the time. A price with no thumb on it produces something close to half. Levitt concluded that bookmakers distort prices about as far as they can without making a blanket policy of backing underdogs profitable. From the outside, 48.2% is what that looks like. So the closing number is a price. An operator set it with a forecast and a commercial motive behind it. Next, the finding that survives. None of that makes the measure useless. It narrows what the measure is entitled to claim. Gandar, Dare, Brown, and Zuber reported in the Journal of Finance in 1998 that line changes between the open and the close significantly improve the accuracy of basketball betting lines as forecasts. The size of individual changes tracked the size of the biases in the opening line. Those changes ran large enough to erase the biases by the close. Whatever else the closing number is, it carries information the opening number didn't. Set that beside Levitt's null result on individual skill. The two get quoted as though only one of them existed. Levitt could find no persistence of skill among his 285 contest entrants. Their results scattered like independent coin tosses. They weren't playing for nothing either. Entry ran $250 ahead, and $42,750 went to whoever finished with the most correct picks. Gandar and colleagues, meanwhile, found prices behaving as though informed money moves them. A market can be shifted in aggregate by people who know something, while no individual in a field that size posts a repeatable record. Anyone invoking informed money as settled fact is running those two claims together and hoping nobody checks. So the defensible claim is smaller than the usual one. Beating the close consistently means a bettor priced something before the market did. That makes it a measuring instrument pointed back at the bettor's own decisions. It says nothing about what was true. Next, the arithmetic nobody runs. Betting writing converts the measure into win probability at roughly 2.5 to 3 points per point of spread. Nobody sources that figure. Granted anyway, the conclusion still collapses on generous terms. A bet struck exactly at a fair closing number is a coin flip. Its expected cover rate is 50%. So a point of closing line value lands near 52.5, and 52.5 at minus 110 returns about 1/4% per unit staked. The standard treatment adds that same 2.5 points to the break-even threshold instead of to the coin flip. It arrives at 55% and calls that healthy. The mistake is worth 4.77 points of return, all of it imaginary. Run the ladder. The top of it sits underwater. Half a point returns negative 2.16%, and a full point clears only barely at plus 0.23. 95 hundredths of a point is roughly what it takes to reach break-even from a fair baseline. The target most betting content quotes runs from half a point to a point and a half. Its entire bottom half loses money. Half a point is a losing position that feels like a winning one, which is the same failure as a 51% cover rate presented as an edge. A qualification cuts the other way, and honesty requires including it. On the underdog side, the baseline probably isn't 50%. Levitt reports the favorite figure rather than its mirror, so 51.8 is what's left after subtracting, rather than a number he states. If underdogs covered near that at the close, half a point on top of it reaches 53.05 and returns about 1.28%. That figure rests on games played in the 1980s and 90s. Whether the same gap sits in a board priced today is not something the sample can answer. Next, where a point sits. Football margins don't spread evenly. They pile up on 3 and on 7, because the sport scores in 3s and 7s. Sports Insights counted 522 three-point margins in 3,471 games, 15.04%, across 13 seasons starting in 2003, which means a flat conversion rate is fiction. Buying from minus 3.5 to minus 2.5 crosses the single most common margin in the sport. Buying from minus 12.5 to minus 11.5 crosses a margin that barely happens. A spreadsheet records both as 1 point and averages them together as though they were the same purchase. So an average blends quantities that aren't comparable. A bettor who happens to cross key numbers looks identical on paper to one who never does. The measure is coarser than the confidence people place in it. Next, the conflict with fading the public. Public money pushes lines toward favorites, and the consequence goes unmentioned almost everywhere. A bettor who takes the underdog early, before that money arrives, gets plus 3 on a game that closes at plus 4.5. Negative closing line value, by construction, for doing precisely what this site argues for. Betting guides list betting early and betting against public money as two ways to improve the number, usually within a few lines of each other. The two pull opposite directions whenever public money is what moves the line. Reverse line movement is the exception. When tickets pile onto the favorite while the number drifts toward the underdog, taking the dog early produces a positive result on both counts at once. For a straight fade, the number tends to land near 0 or slightly negative. That's the design of the thing, rather than a failure of it. Fading the public and chasing the close are different objectives, and a bet placed for one reason won't always score well on the other. Next, where the measure breaks down. Start with a definite article. Books don't close at the same number, so the closing line is a choice rather than a fact, and a bettor who picks the source after the results are in will pick the flattering one. Timing also masquerades as skill. Somebody who reliably bets the side the market is drifting toward will post a positive number while knowing nothing whatsoever, and no spreadsheet separates that from insight. The standard advice half concedes this, noting that betting after a steam move comes out negative by definition. By definition is the giveaway. Sample size bites here the way it bites everywhere else on this site. Half a point across 40 bets says nothing. The count required before an average means anything runs into the hundreds. Levitt's contest bettors won 50.1% of their wagers and lost money anyway. Tracking doesn't change that arithmetic, and it won't rescue a bettor who's half a point to the good and convinced that's enough. What it changes is how long the wait runs before the answer arrives. That wait runs into the hundreds of bets, which is a good deal longer than the month most people give it. If this was useful, hit the like button and subscribe. The full analysis, with sources, is at LoserWins.com.